So hello and welcome everyone. It's nice to again hang out together with you and spend some time reflecting on meaningful topics, going deeper into the practice of meditation, cultivation of the mind. So today I would like to talk a little bit about apparent contradictions that you might become aware of when you're listening to those teachings, especially if you are a long-term listener and you follow all the episodes. Then you will notice that sometimes I talk quite energetically about building strength and, like taking the practice seriously and going deeper and sitting longer and like really going for it. And at other times, I would tell you to let go and be relaxed and take it easy and don't stress out about it and, be kind to yourself and soft, like skip a session here and there, take a nap. So that is an apparent contradiction, right? Sometimes I tell you to do this, other times I tell you to do that. The reason for that actually is quite simple and straightforward. Very often I sit in front of a group of people and some of those people are asking me questions directly that are very specific and that relate to them. So I will give them an answer that is precisely for them. And at other times I'm talking in a more general way, such as right now, for example, then I would talk about topics that either, move me right at that time, or, maybe I've received a question from someone online in a written form, so I don't see that person, I'm not in direct contact with that person. So the answer tends to be a bit more general. So it depends on first of all, it depends on the situation, right? It depends on who is it that asks, at what stage of their practice are they desperate? Are they very stressed out? Are they really relaxed? Are they overly relaxed? Are they too lazy, so to say? So do they need kind of a little kick into the butt or something like that, So there's different scenarios, right? That leads to different answers. So that's one reason why the teachings might appear contradictory at times, because they've been given to people at different stages of their development. So that's the other reason, right? So you will receive teachings that correspond ideally with the stage of your development. So the timing of the teaching is really, really important, and it's often overlooked. Sometimes you might go online and you look for really advanced topics that are not on your pay grade right now, topics that are way beyond your capacity. And then you read about them and they might appear like they make sense. And so conceptually, very often they also do make sense. So intellectually, you might feel a sense of, yeah, I understand that is wonderfully clear. That is very nice. I'm going to put that into practice. But actually, you don't even have the basics yet. So you might not even be able to sit still for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So since the body has no stillness, therefore the mind also has no stillness. The mind is connected to the body. So if your body is constantly fidgeting, then the mind is constantly fidgeting. Means the mind is flowing out into the body. If the mind wouldn't do that, the body would just simply rest there and become very, very still. The mind as well. The reason for the body moving and shifting around is because you're uncomfortable. The reason for being uncomfortable is because your attention is with discomfort. And so as your attention is with discomfort, then necessarily your attention is moving. So if you are at that stage in your practice, it will be inappropriate to go for the deeper topics that do make sense when your mind is very, very still enough to actually grasp the subtlety of those topics. So very often when you go out there into the world of the internet and you look for yourself and you find certain teachings that might be helpful in that moment or that might appear helpful in that moment, very often those teachings are not really yet suitable because our mind isn't able to really grasp them. The intellect might be able to grasp them and juggle them around, these kind of topics and ideas, But then again, it kind of stays, unfortunately, very often at a conceptual level. So the practice doesn't really deepen at all. You just kind of think it does. And there is a big difference, right? So it's really important to know at what kind of stage on the path you are, and what your skills are, and what you honestly need to work on at that moment. That requires a great deal of sincerity when you actually do the work. And that in itself is something that we gradually and slowly usually develop. And we develop it over time as we notice that we are making mistakes that kind of block the progress on the path, or we might kind of do a certain practice and become stale after a while. We're having maybe even have done it for years and not really made any progress until finally, if you're observant enough, you might suddenly notice, wow, I'm doing this meditation for kind of 2 or 3 years already and I'm not getting really anywhere. So I'm still getting upset in a traffic jam. I'm still angry at people. I'm still judgmental and a negative thinker. I'm still projecting negative ideas into the future. I'm still full of fear, etc. You might ignore all those things for a little while, but eventually they hopefully catch up with you, so you become more aware that there is still work to be done. The mind isn't fully peaceful yet. And so you start hopefully asking yourself the right questions, such as, what is it that I really need to do in my practice right now? Not what is it that I really feel like doing, or what is it that I really want to do in my practice right now, but what is it that I really need to do in my practice right now? So it also comes to you here. It's really important for you to know, like, what is it that I really do need right now? Do I need a quick fix? Do I need to relax? Do I need to settle in my practice right now? Or do I need to put some more energy into developing certain qualities of the mind? Do I need to develop inner strength? Or do I kind of need to let go for a little while and take my foot off the pedal and relax and take it more easy? Is my practice, for example, based, and that's very subtle, that's a very common problem for people in the West, who've been conditioned by a Western kind of culture, that there is a whole lot of guilt and shame and low self-esteem, and we don't really like ourselves at all. So very often that remains hidden for a long time. And you might do your whole entire practice based on actually not liking yourself. So you're constantly trying to fix yourself and change yourself, and so it might be really important to have a teacher at that particular time to tell you to relax and to be kind to yourself. Yes, but it might be the wrong advice at certain times. Maybe you are overly relaxed and you're too lazy and you're not doing anything at all and you're not progressing at all on the path. So you need different advice. You need kind of things that energize you. And to know that for yourself is really important. To become slowly, gradually through the practice, to become sensitive to what you need, not to what you want or what you feel like doing. That's a whole different world. But to become sensitive to what you need right now. And that takes a lot of time. To be quite frank with you and honest, very often I do not know what I need. I do know what I want, and I do know what I don't want, but very often I fail to see what it is that I really need, because very often what I need would take me out of my comfort zone. It would take me into a place of growth. And very often I find myself to be quite complacent there. So I need to become sensitive to that particular error and then remedy it. Find a solution for it and work on that. And that's, of course, difficult. It's something new. It's not something that I'm used to be doing. It's not something that comes easy and naturally. It's something that's actually quite hard for me to become, first of all, to notice the real problem and then to remedy it. Both of those steps, to notice it and to work with it, both are difficult. Both don't come naturally. So that's just a little example, right? I have preferences here. I would rather like to do the things that I'm already good at than to do the things that I'm not good at, that I would need to do, that I would need to get better in order to create some balance on the path. Because if you're only doing what you're already good at and you're completely neglecting those areas in the practice that really need to be developed, then you're creating an imbalance on the path. You're becoming too heavy on one side. Look, for example, if you're doing, let's say if you're only doing push-ups, after a while you get really good at doing push-ups and it becomes fun. It's nice. You do more and more and you push yourself to the limits and you only do push-ups. You will create an imbalance in your body. Your shoulders, they will come forward, your upper back will develop problems and weaknesses and so forth, because there is no balance. So it's really important to look for balance, and that you can find that balance if you look for what you really need in your practice. Then develop that skill, and then it will lead you further. As you progress further on the path, then you will have the eyes to see what you need next. Not before that. That's crucial. You will not know really what you need unless you're having developed the power and the quality and the clarity in your mind to actually see what you need. And to become more observant like that is part of the practice. As your mindfulness increases, your sensitivity increases, you can feel more and more what you need right now at that stage. And then you're honest and sincere enough to do exactly that. And really what I'm talking about right here is a very difficult thing to do. At least I find that. I find to be one of the most difficult points of the path is probably to be, first of all, honest enough to see what I need, and then sincere enough to put that into practice consistently so that results show. And that's the difficulty if you are actually practicing by yourself without a spiritual guide that kind of kicks your butt, that tells you what you need to do right now, skillfully. When you're by yourself on your own, then you need to do that. And for a lot of beginners, that capacity is not a given at all. For them, they rather follow their preferences. That's why it's so important very often, and is said over and over again in the classics, in the old texts and so forth. It's said very clearly, you need a guide. At least for the first period, until you're able to stand by yourself, till you're able to guide yourself. And that takes exactly that kind of honesty and sincerity that you put into the path, into the practice. Now, if you have that, then you can begin to guide yourself. You become less dependent on an external guide. Your honesty and your sincerity and your wish for liberation from suffering, or your wish for true happiness is guiding you. As well as there is a sense of urgency as well in the practice. You're not complacent. You're not not taking it seriously. But for those who do take it more seriously, they will develop those qualities quite naturally. All right, so the point that I'm making here is about the apparent differences in the things that I talk about. It's for in different situations, it's for different people, different characters, and yes, you can pick and choose. But if you do pick and choose what kind of teaching you're listening to, then make sure that it's one that you actually need right now, that really brings you to the next level on the path. And then practice it, put it into practice, cultivate it, and, create balance in your life, create balance in your spirit, in your mind. So that way, there is good progress. Otherwise, you might hear those teachings. If you stay on a conceptual level, for example, you might hear those teachings, and then you notice, like one day Tobi says this, and then the next day he says something completely different. there's one phase where he is quite energetic, and another phase where he's more like focusing on kindness, yet another phase where he's focusing on completely letting go and just observing and seeing, and another times again like really pushing the practice, the aspect of cultivation and so forth. Like, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he not consistent in what he says? Why doesn't he just talk about the same thing and the same approach using the same kind of words? Well, life is not like that. Things change. Minds change. Moods change. Everything changes. And so we need to be able to adapt to those changes and do the right thing at the right time. And so that's why these teachings might appear like they're contradictory or, like different or something like that. It's just different medicines for different ailments or different stages of the sickness. So that's the idea of this. Now, I hope that was helpful. And yes, as always, if you do have any questions, I always say that, just write it down in the comment section below this recording. I will read them, or just send me a private message on any of the platforms that I post these little talks. For now, I wish all of you a wonderful week, and looking forward to see you all again, or hear you all again on Thursday. Until then, take care and practice well. Bye-bye.